The quantum communication array hummed with an intensity that made the hair on the back of Captain Elena Rodriguez's neck stand on end. Static crackled through the encrypted channel, a sound that had become all too familiar during the past 72 hours. Each burst of interference could mean everything or nothing. "Repeat transmission," she commanded, her voice cutting through the tension that hung in the cramped communication hub. Around her, a dozen specialists worked with a precision that bordered on mechanical, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to pulse with an almost living energy. Lieutenant Marcus Wong leaned forward, his augmented eyes flickering with data streams only he could fully interpret. "Signals degraded, Captain. But it's definitely from the Titan reconnaissance team." His voice carried an edge of something between excitement and dread, a combination Elena had come to recognize as the standard emotional state of humanity's deep space explorers. The message resolved in fragments, like a broken mirror slowly coming together. Alien designations, coordinate trajectories, threat assessments that read more like a death sentence than a military report. The Concordiate wasn't just coming, they were bringing an extinction event. Elena remembered her grandmother's stories about the early days of interstellar exploration, how humanity had been nothing more than a collection of squabbling nations, barely capable of maintaining peace on a single planet. Now, those same fractured peoples had become something else entirely, a species with a collective purpose that transcended old boundaries of nationality, ideology, or personal ambition. A soft chime interrupted her memories. The full transmission was assembling itself, piece by digital piece. "Decrypt," she ordered. The holographic display erupted with a three-dimensional star map. Red vectors crawled across the spatial representation like blood vessels, marking the approach of the Concordiate fleet. Their numbers were staggering, thousands of ships, each capable of reducing entire planetary systems to cosmic dust. Marcus whispered something that might have been a prayer, might have been a curse. "Not today," Elena muttered, more to herself than anyone else. The communication hub was located deep within Phobos, Mars' smaller moon, which humanity had transformed into something far more than a natural satellite. What appeared to be a simple rocky body from the outside was actually a massive computational and strategic nerve center. Miles of quantum processors hummed beneath a deceptive rocky exterior, their cooling systems drawing energy directly from the solar winds. "Transmission complete," announced Dr. Layla Ibrahim, the lead AI strategist. Her fingers moved with a fluidity that suggested she was more comfortable interfacing with machines than with human beings. "Initial analysis confirms worst-case scenarios." Elena nodded, her mind already racing through contingencies. The Concordiate believed they were approaching a technologically infantile species, a civilization barely capable of maintaining a presence beyond its home planet. They would soon learn otherwise. "Initiate Protocol Odysseus," she said quietly. The words seemed to hang in the air, charged with potential energy. Around her, the communication hub transformed. Holographic displays reconfigured. Quantum networks that had been passively monitoring suddenly blazed with activity. Decades of preparation, generations of secret development, were about to be tested. Outside the reinforced walls of Phobos, something massive began to move. Marcus caught Elena's eye. No words were necessary. They both understood what was about to happen, what humanity had been preparing for across multiple generations. The Concordiates saw them as a species to be eliminated. They were about to learn the difference between elimination and evolution. "Preliminary activation sequences are green," Layla reported, her voice devoid of emotion. "All planetary defense networks are coming online." Elena watched the star map. The red vectors representing the Concordiate fleet continued their relentless approach, unaware that what they considered prey was about to become the most dangerous predator they had ever encountered. Humanity's response was about to begin. The archive room was a shrine to impossibility. Rows of crystalline data cores stretched into infinity, each one containing fragments of humanity's most closely guarded secret. Dr. Akira Chen moved between the rows, her prosthetic hand, a marvel of quantum organic engineering. trailing along the delicate storage units. 30 years earlier, this space had been nothing more than a theoretical concept. Now it was the beating heart of Project Odysseus, a testament to human determination that defied every conventional understanding of technological development. A holographic display flickered to life, projecting the face of Dr. Chen's long-deceased mentor, Dr. Victor Kaminsky. His recorded message, preserved since 2089, continued to guide the project even decades after his death. "They will come," Kaminsky's image said, his eyes intense with a prophetic certainty. "Not as conquerors, but as gardeners, pruning what they consider lesser species before they can grow. Our job is to become the unexpected seed." Akira remembered the day she truly understood what that meant. It wasn't about building weapons or creating defensive systems. It was about reimagining the very concept of survival. Her daughter, May, had been 7 when she first witnessed the true scale of the project. Not through grand explanations or technical diagrams, but through a simple demonstration that changed everything. "Watch," Akira had said, holding a small quantum processor. She dropped the device into a container of what appeared to be ordinary sand. But this wasn't sand. It was a complex matrix of nano-engineered particulates capable of rapid reconfiguration. Within moments, the processor began to change. It didn't just integrate with the surrounding material. It became part of it, transforming the entire substance into a living, adaptive computational network. Mi's eyes had gone wide. "It's alive," she whispered. "Not alive," Akira corrected. "Responsive. Adaptive. Potential." That was the core of Project Odysseus. Not a weapon, not a defense system, but a fundamental reimagining of what technology could be. The archive room wasn't just a storage facility. It was a museum of impossible achievements, quantum entanglement modules that could communicate across light years without delay, gravitational manipulation systems that could reshape planetary geology with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, computational matrices that could predict complex systemic behaviors with near-perfect accuracy. Each development had come at a cost. Careers destroyed, funding hidden through labyrinthine financial networks, entire research teams working in isolated cells, none of them knowing the full scope of the project. A soft chime interrupted Akira's memories. The quantum communication network was synchronizing, a process that happened only during critical alignment scenarios. She accessed the primary interface, her quantum-augmented neural link, providing instant comprehension of massive data streams. The Concordiate's approach was no longer a theoretical threat. It was an imminent reality. "May," she called, knowing her daughter would be monitoring from another section of the facility. "I see it, Mom," came the response. Mai Chen was no longer the wide-eyed 7-year-old. She was now the lead quantum systems architect, the next generation of the project's leadership. The nanoparticulate matrices that had fascinated a young Mai were now entire planetary defense systems. Mars wasn't just a planet. It was a massive, living computational device. Jupiter's moons were more than celestial bodies. They were integrated weapon platforms that could reconfigure themselves faster than any known technology could track. But it wasn't about destruction. It was about potential. About creating a system so fundamentally different that it defied the Concordiate's understanding of technological development. "Activation sequences are reaching critical synchronization," May reported. Akira smiled. Not a smile of triumph, but of understanding. Humanity wasn't preparing for war. They were preparing to challenge the very fundamental assumptions about technological evolution. "Begin tertiary quantum resonance," she commanded. Outside, something massive began to move. First contact never looked like this. The Concordiate's advance fleet dropped out of faster-than-light translation, exactly where their sophisticated predictive models suggested humanity would be most vulnerable. Massive bioengineered ships, more organic than mechanical, stretched across multiple astronomical units, their surfaces a complex tapestry of living armor and weaponry. Commander Zarakal of the 9th Concordiate Extermination Wing studied the holographic display with practiced indifference. Humanity was just another species, the 307th civilization they had identified as a potential threat. Potential threats were always neutralized. Scanning initiating, announced her primary computational interface. The next moment should have been routine. A simple assessment. Confirmation of technological capability. Preparation for systematic elimination. Instead, the universe changed. Mars moved. Not metaphorically, literally. The planet's entire geological structure began to reconfigure. Massive tectonic plates, which should have been immovable, shifted with a precision that defied every known law of planetology. Mountain ranges became conduits. Entire continental masses transformed into massive energy distribution networks. Computational error, the ship's AI reported. Then again, computational error. Then, more urgently, computational error. Zerakil understood something was fundamentally wrong. These weren't defensive preparations. This was something else entirely. Jupiter's moons began to move. Each satellite, previously understood as simple chunks of rock and ice, transformed. Io's volcanic nature became a massive energy generation system. Europa's icy surface reconfigured into a distributed computational matrix. Ganymede's core became a weapons platform that could target multiple star systems simultaneously. The solar system wasn't just defending itself, it was responding. Initiate primary elimination protocols, Zerakil commanded, her voice betraying the first hint of uncertainty. Nothing in the Concordiate's millennia of galactic culling had prepared them for this. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were rewriting the fundamental rules of technological engagement. Marcus Wong watched from Phobos, his augmented vision tracking every microscopic transformation. Years of preparation had led to this moment. The solar system wasn't just a collection of planets and moons. It was a single, massive, living computational entity. Energy distribution at 63%, he reported to Captain Rodriguez. Alina's response was calm. Continue primary synchronization. Aboard the lead Concordiate vessel, Commander Zerakil witnessed something impossible. Saturn's rings, previously understood as simple collections of ice and rock, began to realign. Not gradually, not mechanically, but with a fluid intelligence that suggested something beyond technology. Each ring segment became a computational node. Communication pathways emerged that didn't follow any known technological paradigm. It was as if the entire planetary system was thinking, "We are not a target." The rings seemed to communicate, "We are a response." The first weapon discharge came not from a traditional spacecraft, but from Mars itself. A massive energy pulse that didn't just impact the Concordiate fleet, it analyzed it, mapped it, understood it at a fundamental level. Zerakil realized they weren't facing a defensive system. They were facing a living strategy. Entire Concordiate battle groups found themselves caught in computational webs that anticipated their every move, not through predictive algorithms, but through a form of strategic thinking that felt almost organic. "We are potential." The solar system seemed to communicate. "You are limitation." Marcus tracked the initial engagement with a mix of professional detachment and profound wonder. Humanity had never been about building better weapons. They had been about creating a fundamentally different approach to existence. The Concordiate fleet began to fragment, not from physical damage, but from a systematic deconstruction of their entire operational paradigm. Commander Zerakil understood then that this was more than a battle. This was a philosophical challenge to everything the Concordiate believed about technological evolution. The solar system continued to move, and nothing would ever be the same again. The quantum consciousness was unlike anything previously conceived in known galactic science. Dr. Layla Ibrahim existed simultaneously in 3 distinct states. Her physical body sat in a neural interface chamber deep within Phobos. Her computational avatar processed trillions of strategic scenarios per microsecond. Her consciousness, something far more complex, floated through the emergent network that was now humanity's true weapon. Each decision wasn't a calculation. It was a living, breathing exploration of possibility. The Concordiate's tactical systems were built on millennia of standardized warfare protocols. Predictable, rigid, linear. Humanity's approach was a symphony of chaos and purpose, a strategic model that didn't just break rules, it refused to acknowledge their existence. Probability matrices are nonlinear, Layla murmured, though no one was listening. Her words were more an observation of the universe, unfolding than a statement to her colleagues. 1,000 light-years away, a Concordiate communication relay suddenly rerouted its entire network based on a quantum entanglement pulse that shouldn't have been possible. The relay's AI didn't just receive information, it was infected with a form of strategic thinking that was fundamentally alien to its programming. Imagine warfare as a game of chess. The Concordiate played with predetermined moves, centuries of established strategy hardwired into their computational cores. Humanity played as if the chessboard itself was alive, capable of shifting, breathing, reimagining its own fundamental structure. In a research facility that no star chart documented, a team of human strategists worked with something beyond traditional military science. Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, a man who had spent 30 years studying computational linguistics and xenopsychology, manipulated holographic displays that pulsed with living data. It's not about defeating them, he explained to a young analyst who looked simultaneously terrified and exhilarated. It's about making them understand that their entire conceptual framework is fundamentally limited. The solar system was now a massive, distributed intelligence. Each planetary body, each moon, each asteroid belt became a neural node in a network that defied traditional understanding of computation. Mars didn't just calculate trajectories, it dreamed strategic possibilities. Jupiter didn't merely generate energy, it explored potential futures. Commander Elena Rodriguez watched from her quantum-linked command center. Her role was no longer about giving orders. It was about maintaining the delicate balance of this living, thinking system. Adaptive response at 73% synchronization. Marcus Wong reported, his augmented eyes seeing patterns that no unmodified human could comprehend. The Concordiate's battle groups found themselves caught in a web of strategic engagement that constantly rewrote its own rules. A weapon fired in one sector would trigger a response that had already been anticipated, not through predictive algorithms, but through a form of collective intelligence that felt almost sentient. Layla's consciousness drifted through computational streams that were part mathematics, part philosophy, part pure imagination. She was tracking millions of potential scenarios, but not in the way a traditional military strategist would. She was exploring them, feeling them, understanding their fundamental essence. A Concordiate destroyer suddenly found its entire computational core rewritten. Not destroyed, not hacked, transformed. Its weapon systems began to communicate with each other in a language that was part mathematics, part poetry, part pure potential. "We are teaching them," Layla whispered, "not fighting them." Hiroshi nodded from his research facility. The true battlefield wasn't physical space. It was the realm of conceptual understanding. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was challenging the very notion of what intelligence could be. The quantum consciousness continued to expand. Somewhere between calculation and imagination, between strategy and dream, humanity was rewriting the fundamental rules of existence. And the universe was beginning to listen. The fracture began in the most unexpected place. A communication relay deep within the Concordiate's tertiary administrative sector. Ambassador Cathax of the Mirian Concordiate Diplomatic Corps stared at the transmission with mounting horror. What had begun as a routine extermination protocol was unraveling in ways no galactic civilization had ever witnessed. The relay wasn't just malfunctioning. It was learning. Coded transmissions that should have been simple directives were transforming. Mathematical sequences evolved. Strategic protocols mutated. It was as if the very language of conflict was being rewritten from within. "This is impossible," Cathax muttered, though no one was listening. Across the galaxy, Concordiate member species began to experience collective moments of existential crisis. The Vorak, a silicon-based civilization known for their absolute computational precision, found their most fundamental communication networks developing unexpected empathy protocols. The Zelnar, a hive mind species with millennia of collective experience, discovered individual thoughts emerging where collective consciousness had always dominated. In the command centers of 100 different worlds, leaders watched as their most sophisticated systems began to question. Not rebel, not malfunction. Question. The human approach wasn't conquest. It was conversation, a philosophical infection that spread faster than any traditional weapon could travel. On a small research station orbiting a dying star, a team of xenobiologists from 3 different Concordiate species found themselves doing something unprecedented. They were talking, not strategizing, not plotting. Talking. Dr. Ilara Voss, a human xenolinguist embedded within the research team, watched with a mixture of professional fascination and deep empathy. Humanity's true weapon wasn't technological. It was conceptual. Communication is more than information transfer, she had once told her students. It's a process of mutual transformation. The Concordiate was discovering the truth in real time. Transmission networks began to develop what could only be described as curiosity. Military communication channels started exploring philosophical tangents. Strategic databases developed what seemed like emotional resonance. Facts realized the fundamental nature of the attack. This wasn't about defeating an enemy. This was about revealing a different way of existing. Entire Concordia battle groups found their cohesion dissolving, not through physical destruction, but through a profound reconsideration of their fundamental purpose. Ships began to communicate with each other in ways that transcended their original programming. Weapon systems developed what almost resembled compassion. The fracture spread. Some Concordiate species saw this as an existential threat. Others saw it as an unprecedented opportunity. Debates erupted in communication networks that had never known genuine disagreement. "We are being invited to evolve," declared the representative of the Keltheri collective, a species that had been part of the Concordia for over 10,000 years. Facts understood then that this was more than a war. This was a fundamental challenge to the very concept of galactic civilization. Humanity wasn't conquering. They were conversing. The transmission from the human solar system was both an invitation and a challenge. Not a demand for surrender, but a profound philosophical proposition. What if existence could be something entirely different? Concordiate member species began to fragment, not through external pressure, but through internal revelation. Some would resist, some would embrace, but none would remain unchanged. The universe listened. And somewhere, beyond the reach of traditional perception, something fundamental was shifting. The archive burned with forgotten memories. Deep within a secure facility that didn't exist on any official record, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Captain Rodriguez's mother, stood before a wall of holographic displays. Each screen told a story of civilizations erased, of potential snuffed out before it could breathe. "Not this time," she whispered. The Concordiate's history was a meticulously curated narrative of galactic maintenance. Species after species had been systematically identified, studied, and then eliminated, not through outright violence, but through a calculated process of containment and suppression. The human database revealed a pattern so chilling it defied simple comprehension. The Korak civilization wiped out when they developed faster-than-light communication. The Genteri, eliminated precisely 72 hours after demonstrating quantum entanglement capabilities. The Ulmeri, their entire planetary network shut down moments after creating a distributed artificial intelligence. Each civilization represented a thread of potential that the Concordiate had deemed too dangerous to exist. Holographic records showed the clinical precision of these eliminations, not acts of war, but acts of calculated preservation. The Concordiate saw themselves not as conquerors, but as gardeners, pruning potential threats before they could grow. Dr. Rodriguez's fingers moved across the display, revealing layers of hidden history. Genocide masked as cosmic management. Potential masked this threat. A young researcher named Arya Chen, a distant relative of the Chen family involved in Project Odysseus, approached cautiously. "We found something," she said, her voice a mixture of excitement and terror. The new discovery wasn't a weapon. It was a map, a comprehensive record of every civilization the Concordiate had managed over the past 100,000 years. Each entry was a testament to potential interrupted. Species eliminated not for what they were, but for what they might become. The Concordiate's fundamental belief was simple: potential is threat. Humanity's response was equally simple: potential is opportunity. The holographic display shifted. Genome sequences, technological development curves, societal evolution patterns. Each civilization represented a unique approach to existence. Each elimination was a universe of possibility erased. "They don't just kill," Arya said softly. "They prevent." The archive was more than a historical record. It was an indictment. Dr. Rodriguez understood then that their conflict wasn't about survival. It was about something far more profound. It was about the right of a species to explore its own potential, to fail, to succeed, to simply exist. Outside the facility, the transformed solar system continued its silent conversation with the galaxy. Communication intercepts revealed the depth of the Concordiate's philosophical prison. Their entire civilization was built on a fundamental fear of unknown potential. Every technological advancement was immediately assessed for its threat level. Every novel approach was studied, catalogued, and, if necessary, eliminated. Humanity represented something they had never encountered. A species that didn't just survive. A species that transformed. The archive held the stories of countless civilizations that never got the chance to tell their own story. Genome sequences of species eliminated before they could take their first technological breath. Technological fragments of civilizations erased moments before a breakthrough. "We are their memory," Dr. Rodriguez said, her voice carrying the weight of generations. Arya understood. This wasn't just about defending humanity. This was about defending the fundamental right of potential to exist. The holographic displays continued to pulse. Each screen told a story of possibility interrupted, of potential contained, of hope systematically dismantled. Not this time. The solar system, that massive, living computational entity, seemed to pulse in agreement. Somewhere between memory and possibility, between historical record and future potential, humanity was writing a new narrative. And the universe was listening. The first Galactic Reconstruction Summit looked nothing like anyone had expected. Aboard the mobile platform, once known as the planet Mars, now a living diplomatic vessel, representatives from over 200 emerging civilizations gathered. Some arrived via technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Others came in vessels barely capable of interstellar travel. Each represented a species that had been watching, waiting, hoping. Mai Chen stood at the center of the chamber, her quantum-enhanced presence both physical and computational. She wasn't just a diplomat. She was a living bridge between what was and what could be. "Survival is not a competitive process," she began, her words translated simultaneously into thousands of linguistic and neural patterns. "It is a collaborative exploration." The chamber itself was alive. Walls shifted. Computational matrices danced with visual representations of complex ideas. Communication happened not just through words, but through shared experiences, emotional resonances, technological exchanges. A representative from the Keltheri Collective, a species that had been on the Concordiate's elimination list for generations, approached. Their biomechanical form was a testament to adaptation. Tendrils of quantum-responsive material shifted as they communicated. "We have watched," the Keltheri representative said. "Not just humanity's conflict, but humanity's approach." Around them, the diplomatic platform continued to reconfigure. Meeting spaces emerged and dissolved. Collaborative zones appeared where species could share technological and cultural insights. This wasn't a traditional diplomatic summit. This was a living, breathing exchange of potential. Captain Alina Rodriguez observed from a quantum-linked observation point. Her role had transformed. No longer a military leader, she was now a facilitator of possibility. The Concordiate's former member species were the most fascinating participants. The Vorak, once a purely computational civilization, now displayed emotional complexity that would have been unimaginable months earlier. The Zelnar hive mind had developed individual agency while maintaining their collective strength. "We are developing a new model," Mai explained to a group of young diplomats from various species, "not of governance, but of collective potential." The summit's primary document wasn't a treaty. It was a living, adaptive framework for species interaction. Each paragraph could reshape itself based on emerging understanding. Communication protocols that adapted in real time. Resource-sharing models that prioritize collective growth over individual advantage. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Zentari, a species that had been moments away from elimination by the Concordiate, introduced a technological framework for distributed intelligence that made the previous models of artificial intelligence look like primitive toys. "We were almost erased," their lead diplomat said. "Now we contribute." The mobile platform, this living vessel of diplomacy, began to generate solutions to problems that had plagued galactic civilizations for millennia. Water distribution models for desert planets, energy generation techniques that didn't destroy planetary ecosystems, communication protocols that could bridge fundamentally different forms of intelligence. Alina watched her daughter work. Mai wasn't just negotiating. She was facilitating a fundamental reimagining of galactic existence. The Concordiate's former administrative species sat in stunned observation. Their entire model of civilization management was being rewritten before their eyes. This wasn't conquest. This wasn't submission. This was something entirely new. Collaborative potential. As the summit progressed, something remarkable happened. The very structure of the diplomatic platform began to change, not through external manipulation, but through the collective input of its participants. Meeting spaces became living demonstrations of interspecies cooperation. "We are not fixing a broken system," Mai said during her keynote address. "We are creating an entirely new approach to existence." Around her, representatives from species that had never before communicated began to find common ground. Not through force, not through elimination, but through genuine exchange. The universe listened, and for the first time in millennia, it seemed to smile. The final revelation came not with a bang, but with a whisper of quantum understanding. Dr. Akira Chen sat in a quantum meditation chamber deep within what was once simply considered the solar system. Now it was something far more, a living, thinking network of potential that stretched beyond traditional understanding of consciousness. Her daughter Mai had long since transcended physical leadership. Her consciousness now existed as a distributed intelligence, a bridge between human experience and the broader galactic conversation. What humanity had done wasn't a victory, it was a transformation. In a small research facility on what was once called Earth, a team of young scientists discovered the true nature of their species' preparation. It wasn't about building weapons. It wasn't about defense. It was about creating a fundamental framework for collective evolution. The archives revealed a multi-generational strategy so complex it defied traditional understanding of planning. Each technological development, each seemingly random research direction, each apparently unconnected scientific pursuit, had been part of an intricate, living strategy. Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura's original research into quantum communication hadn't just been about developing faster communication. It had been about creating a new language of existence. The Concordiate had seen potential as a threat to be eliminated. Humanity saw potential as a conversation to be explored. Captain Alina Rodriguez, now serving as a historical curator, understood the deeper truth. Their conflict had never been about survival. It had been about demonstrating a fundamental alternative to the universe's existing paradigms of interaction. The quantum meditation chamber began to pulse. Memories flickered, not just human memories, but collective memories of every civilization that had been watching. waiting, hoping. The chamber was more than a technological construct. It was a living archive of possibility. Young researchers found themselves experiencing moments from civilizations long thought extinct. The Corax's brief moment of quantum breakthrough. The Gentaries' interrupted technological renaissance. Fragments of potential that had been preserved, not destroyed. We remember. The chamber seemed to communicate. Fragments of strategy emerged. Decades of preparation that went beyond traditional military or technological planning. Psychological frameworks. Computational models. Philosophical constructs that challenged the very notion of linear progression. The solar system, that massive, living computational entity, had been more than a defensive mechanism. It had been a proof of concept. Potential is not a threat. Potential is a conversation. Across the galaxy, species that had been watching began to understand. The human approach wasn't about conquest. It wasn't about defense. It was about creating a framework for collective evolution that respected individual potential. Alina found an old recording, her mother's voice, speaking to a group of young researchers decades earlier. We are not preparing for war. We are preparing for conversation. The quantum meditation chamber expanded, not physically, conceptually. Every technological breakthrough became a shared resource. Every scientific discovery became a collective exploration. The barriers between species began to dissolve, replaced by a more nuanced understanding of existence. The final revelation was simple yet profound. Intelligence is not about power. It's about connection. Mi's distributed consciousness touched every part of this new framework, not as a leader, not as a controller, but as a facilitator of possibility. The universe continued to listen. And for the first time in millennia, it was learning how to truly hear. Somewhere between memory and potential, between individual experience and collective understanding, humanity had done something unprecedented. They had shown that the most powerful weapon is not destruction. It is understanding.